And gentlemen, this is Miss Humbert here, and today we're going to be talking about solving systems using any method. So sometimes you're given systems, but it doesn't exactly tell you which method you're supposed to be doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of look at today when it's best to use each method respectfully, okay? So first, let's start by writing this down, and that's just kind of the different times that you can use each method. So for example, when to use substitution. Good times to use substitution are if you have you already have it solved for a variable, so you have y equals x equals or something like that. That's a great time to use substitution. Or if you have a positive coefficient of 1. So maybe you have something like 3x plus y is equal to 6 in one of your equations. That y is super easy to solve for. Then for elimination, elimination is good to use if you have things in standard form and also if you have the same letter with the same coefficient. So if you have the same letter with the same coefficient, that makes it really easy to make opposites and thus really easy to use elimination. So on this worksheet, you can ultimately decide which method you want to use. I'm leaving that up to you. So let's start by taking a look at these. I'm going to tell you which ones might be easier based on how they look. So what I noticed first of all is that these two are in standard form. And I also noticed that because they're in standard form, elimination would be easiest. So I noticed that my y's have the same or have opposite signs, but they don't have the same coefficient. So what I'm going to ask myself is what is the smallest number that 5 and 3 multiply to? And that's 15. So I'm going to take this first equation and I'm going to multiply this by 5 so I can get to 15. And I'm going to take this equation and I'm going to multiply it by 3. So I'm going to take the 5 and distribute it in. 5 times 5 is 25x. 5 times 3 is 15y. And 16 times 5 is going to be 80. Now taking that 3, we're going to multiply it into everything on the bottom. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times a negative 5 is a negative 15. And then 3 times a negative 4 is a negative 12. So now what I notice is that my y's have the same number with opposite signs. So now I can add down the columns. 25 plus 9 is going to give me 34. Okay? And then I'm going to do 80 minus 12, and that's going to give me 68. So my y's canceled out, and all I was left with was that x. So now I'm going to divide both sides by 34 so that I can solve for x. So when I do that, I get that x is equal to 2. So now I know that x is equal to 2. So where I see x in that original equation, I can plug 2 in. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to take that first equation. So the first equation on your page, I'm going to take x out completely and I'm going to put 2 in instead. And then I'm going to keep everything else the same. So now I need to go ahead and I need to solve this for y. So 5 times 2 is 10 plus 3y is equal to 16. So to continue solving this for y, that's a positive 10 that I need to bring over to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. And then I get that 3y is equal to 6. Divide both sides by 3, and I get that y is equal to 2. So now I need to set that up as a coordinate point, x, y. So first my x, then my y. Okay? Next, let's go ahead and let's take a look at number 2. So what I noticed about number 2, first of all, is that it's in standard form. So standard form means it's usually easier to use elimination. I also noticed that my y's have same coefficients and opposite signs. So that means I can go ahead and I can just add down the columns. Well, 2x plus 3x is going to give me 5x. And then negative 5y plus 5y is going to cancel out. 7 plus 13 is 20. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to divide both sides by 5, and that gives me that x is equal to 4. So now I know that x is equal to 4. So where I see x in either one of these equations up here, I can plug in 4. So then when I do that, let's just do the first equation. I'm going to take x out completely, and I'm going to put 4 in instead. So I'm going to get that. So I took x out and I put 4 in instead. 3 times 4 is 12 minus 5y is equal to 7. So then I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides, and I get that a negative 5y is equal to a negative 5. So last thing I need to do to solve this for y would be to divide both sides by a negative 5. Negative times a negative is going to become a positive. 5 divided by 5 is 1. So last thing I need to do is to write that out as a coordinate point. First x, then y. So x is equal to 4. So 4 and then 1. And that right there is your final answer for that one. All right, let's take a look at number 3. So for number 3, I see that I have a positive coefficient of 1. So this one might be easier to use substitution. Or let's rewrite this out in standard form. Let's line up our x's and our y's. You could use substitution very easily on this one by solving this equation for y. So if that's something you want to do, go for it. Then I'm going to write out this second equation. So when I line up my x's and y's, what I notice is that my y's have same coefficient, opposite signs. So that means I can go ahead and I can add down the columns. 3x plus 5x is 8x. And then y minus y is going to cancel out. 24 plus 8 is 32. So now I know that x is equal to 32, or 8x is equal to 32. So to solve for x, I'm going to divide both sides by 8, and I get that x is equal to 4. So x and 4 are the same thing. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to plug it back in. I'm going to go up to the top, and where I see x, I can plug it in there or there. Okay, so now I'm going to plug that in for x. I'm going to do the top equation. So y stays the same and everything stays the same except wherever I see an x, I'm going to put a 4 instead. So y plus 3x is equal to 24, and I replace the x with 4. So 3 times 4 is 12, so y plus 12 is equal to 24. And then we're going to subtract 12 from both sides. And then we end up with y is equal to 12. So now we know that y is equal to 12. We have our x, we have our y, so we can write that as a coordinate point. First x, and then y. Okay. Next, let's take a look at this next one. So we need to figure out how we need to solve this one. So first I noticed that it's in standard form. So I'm thinking elimination right now. Okay, so because I'm thinking elimination, I think, okay, I need the same number with an opposite sign. Well, I notice that my y's already have opposite signs. So I'm trying to figure out how they can have the same coefficient. So I ask myself, how can I take 1 and make it 3? Well, I need to multiply by 3. So I'm going to take that entire second equation and multiply it by 3. So I have 5x plus 3y is equal to 3. And then when I multiply that 3 in, I get 6x minus 3y is equal to 3 times 10, which is 30. So I just distribute all of that in. So now I notice that my y's have opposite signs, so I can go ahead and add down the columns. So 6x plus 5x is 11x. These guys cancel. 3 plus 30 gives me 33. So now I want to solve for x. So to do that, I'm going to divide by 11 since it's being multiplied, and then I get that x is equal to 3. So x and 3 are the same thing. Okay, so where I see x on this top equation, I can plug in 3 to either one of those. Let's use the second equation just for something different. Okay, so just erase that a little bit. I don't even know how that happened. All right, so then we're going to get 2, and then instead of having x, we're going to have 3, and then minus y is equal to 10. Well, 2 times 3 is 6, minus y is equal to 10. So now I need to get that 6 over to the other side. Well, it's a positive 6, so I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. Then I get that a negative y is equal to 4. Well, I certainly don't want to know what a negative y is. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 1. That's how I can get rid of that negative sign. So I'm going to get that y is equal to negative 4. Last but not least, we need to write that out as a coordinate point. First your x, and then your y. And that is your final answer for that one. Okay, let's go ahead and let's take a look at these couple on the back here. We're just going to get through as many as we can. So taking a look at number 5, I see that it's in standard form and that my y's have the same opposite signs, but they don't have the same coefficient. So I'm asking myself, okay, what can I multiply 3 and 4 to that'll be the same number? And the smallest number is 12. So I ask myself, okay, what do I need to multiply 3 by to get to 12? And that's 4. And next, what do I need to multiply 4 by to get 12? And that's 3. So now I need to distribute each of these in on either side. So 4 times 4 is 16. 3 times 4 is 12. And 19 times 4 is 76. So all I did was distribute the 4 into each of those parts. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. And 8 times 4 is 20, or times 3 is 24. So now I notice that I have opposite signs. So these guys are going to cancel. 16x plus 9x is 25x. And 76 plus 24 is going to be 100. So now we have that 25x is equal to 100. So we need to divide both sides by 25. And that gives me that x is equal to 4. So now I know that x is equal to 4. So x and 4 are the same thing. So since x is equal to 4, where I see 4 up here, in either one of those I can plug x. Let's just do it in the second equation. So I have 4, and then I'm going to take out the 4 and put the x and put 4 in instead, plus 3y is equal to 19. So 4 times 4 is 16, plus 3y is equal to 19. And then we're going to subtract 16 from both sides. Okay, and then I have that 3y is equal to 3. Divide both sides by 3, and I get that y is equal to 1. So y is equal to 1, x is equal to 4. So we're going to write that out as a coordinate point, x, and then y. Okay, next let's take a look at number 6. So what I notice about number 6 is that it's already solved for a y. Okay, it's already solved for y right here. Y is equal to 4x plus 11. So y and 4x plus 11 are the same thing. So where I see y down here, I'm going to take that out completely. So we have 3x minus 2. Now instead of the y, I'm going to do 4x plus 11. And that's going to be equal to a negative 7. So now I need to go ahead and I need to distribute. Okay, so I'm going to do 3x minus negative 2 times 4x is negative 8x. Negative 2 times 11 is a negative 22. And that's equal to a negative 7. So 3x minus 8x is a negative 5x. Minus 22 is equal to a negative 7. So now to get that 22 over to the other side, I need to add 22. So then I get that 5x is equal to 15, a negative 5x. So to solve it, I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 5. And 15 divided by negative 5 is a negative 3. So x is equal to a negative 3. X and negative 3 are the same thing. So where I see x up top, I can plug in. Now I'm going to use that first equation. It's already solved for y. That's going to make my algebra a lot easier. So I'm going to take x out completely and I'm going to put negative 3 in instead. And then I'm going to get 4 times a negative 3 plus 11. 4 times a negative 3 is a negative 12 plus 11. Negative 12 plus 11 is negative 1. So y is equal to a negative 1. So then we have negative 3, negative 1 for our final answer. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to probably conclude the video here. So if you kind of get an understanding of it, go ahead and you can get the homework sheet. If you still need help, have me talk you through 1 or 2 questions individually. Thanks for listening.